This week on the Analog Circle podcast, WB Games are shifting its focus to live service games. I don't know how that's going to work out. Rockstar has officially announced we'll be getting a GTA 6 trailer. Woo! Who saw that coming? CD Projekt Red is releasing, oh man, get this, Cyberpunk 2077 Ultimate Edition? We'll see if that's true or not. And BioWare has given us some new details about Mass Effect 4. Jokers took us on a breadcrumb trail, didn't they? But all of these stories can be found here and quite a few more in episode 186 of the Analog Circle podcast. I am your host, Kiaun Mitchell, and I want to say thank you for tuning in to another episode of the podcast. Woo-wee day. Now, with that being said, guys, if you want to get in contact with the show, you can do it two different ways. You can either call in at 443-380-0281, or you can email the show, and the email address is simply the Analog Circle Podcast at gmail.com. Have no idea why I was doing all of them woos. It wasn't that exciting, was it? Dog. Need to stop capping over here. But, with that being said, as always, I want to get you guys out of here within an hour, so I'm going to just jump right into it without further ado. So, let's go ahead and let's get into the gaming news. Yes, sir. That went down. So let's start with a bit of shocking news that has been confirmed by narrative director Ben Arfman and advanced writer Brittany Morris. Now, they both confirmed in a Gizmodo interview that Miles Morales will be the lead moving forward. Now, Morris said, quote, "It always felt very natural, and I think we all collectively thought it would happen. To me, it shows a great deal of evolution from Miles. At the beginning of the game, we see him struggling to figure out what he wants to do with his life. By the end, we had Miles carrying the burden of the city." End of quote. So right there, I stopped it right there because the article actually started getting into spoilers, and I haven't played Spider-Man 2 yet, so I didn't want to spoil it for myself. And granted, I wouldn't have spoiled it for you guys either. But on a side note, just very quickly, since we are talking about Spider-Man, we got the numbers. And the numbers are in. Insomniac Games Spider-Man 2 has sold a whopping 5+ million copies. Oh, man. Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did. Oh, congratulations to Insomniac, man. One of my favorite developers of, the past 5 years. Just their consistency on being able to make such fantastic gaming experiences in such a short period of time. It was even a report that came out earlier today where they were saying, and we had talked about this before, where the article had said that a developer had it leak that Wolverine is on track to release in 2024. Now, I mean, we've heard this before. I wouldn't get too excited or hyped up about that, but that's the report that is being reported on 2024 Wolverine. That would be exceptional. I don't know if they can pull that off, but we'll see. But getting back to Miles Morales actually being the lead moving forward with the Spider-Man franchise, gaming wise, I think it's awesome. Like I say, I'm not the biggest comic book fan, so I don't know all of the lore. I just hope that it's being done in a way where it actually makes sense. That's the only thing. I'm glad that they're doing it. I just wanted to make sense for not only the characters, but the world, the video game world that Insomniac has built. And they have done such an excellent job. But I definitely look forward to seeing the direction that they go in, because, again, I played Miles Morales. Good grief. The game was so excellent. Had a bit of a tear jerker in that. Man, come on, man. I think they're going to be just fine with this. But, congratulations to Miles being the new lead moving forward. But let's go ahead, for the sake of time. Let's get into the next story. Now, this next story is coming to you guys via The Verge, and this is very controversial. So let's go over the green team and talk about this new partnership that Microsoft has with In-World AI to develop Xbox tools that will allow developers to create AI-powered characters, stories, and quests. So here's the direct quote. It says, quote, "At Xbox, we believe that with better tools, creators can make even more extraordinary games." End of quote. Now, that was actually being said by General Manager of Gaming AI at Xbox. His name is Haiyan Zhang. Now, he continues and says, quote, "The partnership will bring together In-World's expertise in working with generative AI models for character development, Microsoft's cutting-edge cloud-based AI solutions, including Azure OpenAI service, Microsoft Research's technical insights into the future of play, and Team Xbox's strengths of revolutionizing accessible and responsible creator tools for all developers." End of quote. Now, the thing about this technology is pretty alarming to me is this multi-platform AI tool set that will include a AI design co-pilot that can be integrated into games and used to dynamically generate stories, quest dialogue, and scripts, as well as narration. So, I mean, you're covering a lot of ground here. So in my mind, this technology is going to take away more jobs from humans in the industry. But Microsoft defends this, saying that, quote, "We want to help make it easier for developers to realize their visions, try new things, push the boundaries of gaming today, and experiment to improve gameplay, player connection, and more." End of quote. Now, I understand Microsoft, of course they're going to say that, but the writing is on the wall. This co-pilot is dangerous. I mean, they're talking about that it'll be able to dynamically generate stories, quest dialogue, and scripts. I mean, those are all human jobs. When you talk about the dialogue, I remember reading a article from a current voice actor, or I might have been a voice actress, who said it is no need to even get into gaming for voice acting because the jobs are being taken already as we speak. So, I mean, it seems like this new reality is closer than we think. I mean, of course, Microsoft, they're trying to say that the tools are only going to be used to be able to help enhance, the creatives. But these are some serious roles that are going to be AI generated. And we know that these companies, if they can save a buck, if they can save a dime, they will do so. I just don't want it to get to the point in the industry where we lose that human touch, when it comes to actual gaming development. I mean, this is a this is a different time in gaming in general, seeing all of the layoffs that have been happening, hearing about, at this point in time, trying to get a union involved, which would be fantastic, to make sure that, people are being treated, the right way. It's just a lot of, different elements that are happening right now. And these companies are making record breaking numbers worth of money, but they're still cutting jobs. So this seems like it's going to be a bit of a crossroad coming up in the industry as long as these things continue to move forward. But I guess we'll just have to see what happens in the long run when it comes to this. But I am not very confident that moving forward, more people are going to be working in the industry versus not. So we'll definitely see what happens in the upcoming years, because it's not going to take effect today, but in the long run, we'll be able to see the effects of what this may do to the gaming industry. But let's go ahead and move on into another story that I got from game developers. So in quick PlayStation news, starting Monday, which is tomorrow, November 13th, PlayStation owners will not be able to post to Twitter or X, if you want to call it that, directly from their consoles. This includes trophies and in-game captures. Now, the reason why support is stopping for this feature is because of a new API pricing structure where third-party developers would have to pay $42,000 a month to have X integration. That's a lot of doggone money, $42,000 a month. Now, I understand it was a tweet from Elon Musk that did come out where he just caught wind of this and he said he'll look into it. So I don't know if that means things will change or they won't, but either way, tomorrow, if you're a person kind of similar to myself that likes to tweet things directly from your PlayStation 5 or 4, you will not be able to do so starting tomorrow. Let's get into the next story. Let's talk about some Nintendo news. And I got this actual story from VGC. So in Nintendo news, a big shout out to them for the Switch selling 132.46 million units over its lifetime, which means if they sell a little over, this is crazy. If they sell a little over 21 million more units, they will surpass the Nintendo DS, which still holds the crown of being their best-selling hardware to date, selling a whopping 154 million units. And just putting that into perspective, PlayStation 2, which is the highest selling console to date, has sold 155 million units. So if they catch the DS, chances are they could actually overtake the PS2. Now, Nintendo also reported an operating profit. Now, this is what I'm talking about. These companies are making money. They have a operating profit of 94.5 billion yen during the 3 months until September 30th, which that translates as far as US currency, that translates to around roughly like $627,442,200. So Nintendo is eating quite hefty over there. And just on a side note, Tears of the Kingdom has sold close to 20 million copies. I gotta give it up for him, man. I gotta give it up for him. I don't think you should be up for Game of the Year, but I cannot deny those numbers are extremely impressive. 20 million. Almost 20 million copies sold. God, dog. Nintendo is a darn money printing machine. So shout out to them. And because of this, I was reading the article in the VGC on the VGC website. And during that time, Doug Bowser, it wasn't even Doug Bowser. It was, I forgot the other gentleman who was in charge over there at Nintendo. He did not want to talk about Switch 2 at all. That joker said, look, the Switch is selling just great. We're going to ride this wave out. We don't want to do anything to disrupt this amazing run that we're on. So he would not talk about Switch 2, which is understandable. Look, you want to continue to sell as many units of these as you can. And once you feel like you're starting to run out of steam, which their numbers, they actually were lower in this fiscal quarter than last year. So it is showing that, they are starting to kind of dip a little bit, but not enough for him to start talking about the Switch 2, because the numbers are still amazing. They really have a really good chance of actually overtaking the PS2's, the PS2's place as being the best selling console ever. And not too far off. They still got quite a ways to go, but I think, I don't know if it's possible. They'll get close, I think, but I don't think they'll overtake it. But let's move on to the next story. How are we doing on time? I think we're doing pretty good. So let's move into the next story. And I got the story from Digital Trends. Now, over this past week, this story right here, N7 Day happened. And even though we didn't get any news, well, we did actually. I wrote this story when the breadcrumb trail was still being set. So I said we didn't get any screenshots of trailers, but we did actually get a trailer, which it looked like it was a different character, had the N7 plate on their chest and all of that stuff. But let me get to the story that I wrote. We did get a word from the franchise director and executive producer. His name is Mike Gamble, who has teased story elements for the upcoming Mass Effect game, where he teased how the original Mass Effect trilogy will tie into the new game by answering by giving everybody the answers to some of the things that they were wondering about. So some of the questions that may be answered is, quote, what happened to everyone you know and love in the games? Who really died? Ooh, who really died? That's interesting. Who had kids with whom? Which, God dog, yeah, that could be a story arc right there. What does a baby Volus sound like? I don't know about that. Sounds interesting. No, it don't. He went on to say, what about all the galaxies? I would like to know about some more of these galaxies out here. Will we be able to travel to some of them? Now, he also said, I'm all tongue tied. Pardon me. I do this every show. Got to get better. But, he said the ending, what the heck is going on with our sorry scientist turned shadow broker? And what about he said, never mind. You get the idea. End of quote. So Gamble also said BioWare will, quote, approach the future of this universe with gratitude and deep respect. Yeah, some people felt like Andromeda, you totally disrespected the franchise with that game. I didn't think it was a bad game. Somebody said it the best, though. They said they didn't think it was a bad game. It was just a bad Mass Effect game. That might have been the dude over at IGN. I forgot his name right now. But yeah, I thought that was a better quote because it wasn't a bad game. But hearing all of these things coming from them, well, from this, from Mike, the producer, the executive producer, Mike Gamble, this is very interesting to hear about who really died. I mean, we all know what happened at, Mass Effect 3. People got mad at the ending, but we kind of know what happened for those of you that got to the end. Talking about these galaxies, what's going on, with the galaxies, about who had kids with whom. These are some dope story arcs that could be covered in the next Mass Effect. Now, as excited as I was to see this trailer where it was being reported that was in-game footage and they were using, I believe, Unreal Engine 5. Now, in-engine footage. Now, we understand in-engine footage doesn't always necessarily mean that it's going to come out that same way, graphic for graphic. It might be a bit of a downgrade depending on what happens, but it all is in engine. But as excited as I was to see this, see the character, whoever that character is, that shadowy character, Jeff Grubb, and we know this guy, golly, this guy has a pretty good track record. I would almost say he has a great track record, but he says that Mass Effect 4, quote, is just nowhere near coming out, and said, end of quote. No, he said, and we won't see it until 2029. That's a long way, brothers and sisters. Wow, what's that, 5 years? 4, 5, 6, 7, 6 years. So we're talking about we could possibly be in the next generation by the time we see Mass Effect 4 release. I'm hoping this time, for the sake of the subject matter of it being Mass Effect 4, I'm hoping Jeff Grubb is wrong about this, but this guy said that Guardians of the Galaxy was coming out on the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. I said, there's no way that's going to happen. Once he was right about that, I said, I'm sold. This guy's dope. This guy has a great track record. So when he says something, I definitely listen. I kind of take it to be, I mean, of course, nobody knows for sure, so you can't take it as fact. But I take it to a certain degree of, this could really be true. So 2029, that's a long way off. Hopefully it won't be that long, but they've been working on this game since, I believe, 2021? I think it was announced, or 2020. So we know that game development also takes longer nowadays. So who knows? That's a long time, but we'll see. Let's move on into the next story. Now let's talk about one of gaming's biggest events this year, the Game Awards. It has been announced that on Monday, November 13th, oh man, the internet is going to explode. I guarantee you. The nominees will be revealed at 9 a.m. Pacific time and 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, this year, it will be more than 30 categories. The actual Game Awards will air on December 7th at 4:30 p.m. Pacific and 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Listen, brothers and sisters, this is the moment right here. This is the moment that a lot of people have been waiting on. Will Starfield get nominated? Will Resident Evil 4 Remake get nominated? Will Spider-Man be nominated? Will, and I'm against it, God dog, and I'm against it, but will Mario Wonder be nominated for Game of the Year? I mean, this year has been stacked. Absolutely stacked to the gills. It's going to be a very, very interesting day tomorrow. People are going to be big mad if their game does not get nominated for Game of the Year. Oh, man, I can't wait. I can't wait to see what games actually make the cut and which ones don't. Oh, y'all know tomorrow is going to be a show. It is going to be a heck of a show. People are going to be in their fields. Some people are going to be happy. Some people are going to be mad. But it's 30 categories. That's a lot of categories. So if your favorite game does get nominated, I'm sure it'll probably get something in the sub, the subcategories. It might not get Game of the Year. Like I said, I'm standing on my square. I don't think Zelda should get Game of the Year, Tears of the Kingdom, and I don't think that Mario Wonder should get Game of the Year. Definitely give them some awards though. I'm not saying they are not worthy of getting awards for what they've done. But Game of the Year, I don't think they should be in the conversation. But I do have a feeling. Oh, Jeff, Kelly, I got a feeling one of those two are going to be there. I don't think they could put both of them in there. That would be a little unfair, especially for a year like this where it's so many games that, according to a lot of people, would say deserve to be there. So They got to pick one or the other. If one of the Nintendo games has to be in the conversation for Game of the Year, you got to pick one or the other, in my opinion. Not saying they will, because who the heck am I? But I think that would be fair to do it that way. But yeah, that's going to be interesting. So tomorrow, get ready. The 13th. 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern. That's when the list of nominees will be revealed. And again, December 7th will be the show. We're going to talk about early December a little later in the show. Oh yeah, we got some good stuff on that. But let's move on into the next story that I got from Cryptopolitan. Oh yeah, this was a news source right here. So, in more CD Projekt Red news, GameStop, yes, this is coming from GameStop, has essentially leaked that Cyberpunk 2077 Ultimate Edition for Xbox Series X and PS5 will be released on December 5th, just 2 days before the Video Game Awards. Now, it's worth pointing out that there is no PC version that was mentioned, which could suggest that this could be a console exclusive with special optimizations for both Xbox Series X and PS5. Now, the game will allegedly retail for $59.99, which that is excellent. If this is true, of course, this is a so-called leak that GameStop did. So, take it with a mustard seed of truth that this is true. But, this would be very, very dope. I mean, $60. They're not trying to price gouge you at the $70 price tag, which is now for standard, current generation games. And I got to shout out Capcom for that too. They've kept their games at $60 as well. So yeah, shout out to both of them for that for sure. But if this is true, then this would be a version I would pick up, because I do have the Xbox One version of Cyberpunk 2077, which when I was playing it, I didn't think it was that bad. I mean, yeah, I had a couple of times where it was chugging along a little bit, but I didn't think it was nearly as bad as people made it out to be. So now that I have a PlayStation 5, if this is so-called supposed to be more optimized for these current generation consoles, I would definitely pick it up for $60. And who knows, maybe that will include the DLC. I don't think so. I think that's a bit of a stretch to include the new DLC that was just released. But even if it's just a situation of them completely cleaning up the game, which they already have, they just released that patch. They cleaned up the game, as it were. If you already had the, I think the last gen versions of the game, it already cleaned it up. So them actually officially making a Series X and PlayStation 5 version of the game where all of those cleanups or the patches are already put into this version of the game out of the package, I would definitely pick that up. So yeah, shout out to them if this is true. But we will know December 5th if this actually holds any water. Let's get into the next story. And this next story is coming from Windows Central. So let's circle the block back around to Xbox. Now, Turn 10 Studios and Forza boss Alan Hartman has been promoted to head of Xbox Game Studios. Now don't get it twisted, because before Matt Booty was the head of Xbox Studios, but not anymore. He is now the president of game content and studios. So, he'll be overseeing Xbox Game Studios and Bethesda Softworks, / ZeniMax Media. But Alan has been the studio head of Forza Motorsport, Motorsport, what did I say? That's a lot of pausing in the middle. Well, anyway, he was the developer at Turn 10 Studios since 2005. Now, Hartman said, quote, "Thrilled to be representing such an elite set of game creators in my new role leading Xbox Game Studios, when he announced his promotion. That's what he said. So with this new promotion, Alan will now oversee not just Turn 10, but Ninja Theory, 343, Obsidian Entertainment, Compulsion Games, and several other studios, totaling around 15 studios or so. So I think that this is a fantastic move on Microsoft's part. Yet here we go again with another shift in leadership. They are finally getting their ducks in a row. You got Matt Booty shifting to his new role. You got Sarah Bond shifting to her new role. And now this week, we just read that Alan Hartman is now being promoted to head of Xbox Game Studios. And this guy's track record, come on, man, Forza has never really dropped the ball. This year, I think they gave it an 8, which was a bit of a drop for them. But this is the same studio where these guys have been getting 9s and sometimes 10s off of the games that they make. So having this guy in charge, being able to gauge the quality and what the game needs, I think this is a great shift in leadership for that role. So congratulations to Alan Hartman. He's been there since 2005. This guy's been around the block quite a few times, and he's always constantly delivered great Forza games. So with him being able to stretch out to these other studios like Ninja Theory, Compulsion, 343, I just named the studios, but, just being able to go out there and give his expertise to them as well, maybe being able to coach them and tell them, no, that's not the right thing to put into the game. It needs a little bit more of this. It needs a little bit more of that, add those two together, and I think it'll be good. So this guy's track record is great. I think this is a really, really good, shifting around of the guard, and I'm sure that this guy's going to bring some really, really good things out of these studios moving forward. So let's get into the next story, man. I think I'm going to get y'all out of here real early, and I do pardon for that earlier pause that I did. I paused for like 5-10 seconds. I forgot what I actually wrote about that guy. But anyway, moving into the next story, I got this story from IGN. So in a brothers and sisters. In a highly unexpected move, Rockstar has officially announced when we will see a trailer for the next GTA. They said, quote, "We are very excited to let you know that in early December, we will release the first trailer for the next Grand Theft Auto." Oh man, take that in, brothers. Oh man, we look forward to many more years of sharing these experiences with all of you. End of quote. So Rockstar saying early December makes me think, could this premiere at the Game Awards? Because we went over the story. The Game Awards are taking place December 7th. Could they actually release it there? Now, I'm of the mindset, this is Rockstar, brothers and sisters. This is the company that they just had a financial meeting, and they said they had reported that they have sold a ridiculous 190 million copies of Grand Theft Auto 5, and they're up around 5 million from the prior quarter. God dog, 190 million copies. And to top it off, even though it's not as impressive, it's still extremely impressive. Red Dead Redemption 2 has sold over 57 million copies. So with Rockstar, they don't need any award show. They don't need anybody to push them to be able to push their brand. Grand Theft Auto is going to sell ridiculously well. Well, Grand Theft Auto 6. They don't need anything. All they need to do, they could randomly drop the trailer for Grand Theft Auto 6 in the middle of the night on a Monday, and it would get all of the traction that they would need it to have. So do I think it's gonna appear at the Video Game Awards or the Game Awards? I don't think so. I don't think they need to do it. I think that, quite frankly, they could release that trailer the day after the Game Awards. It would be one of the biggest trolls ever. Where Jeff Keighley, he's not saying that it's going to be at his show, but the timelines actually align with one another, where everybody would think that it would be at the show. And Rockstar's like, nah, we'll do it the day after. So it would be amazing. One of the biggest trolls since E3 that year when Rockstar showed up, and they just showed these darn people on the panel talking about social issues. I said, listen, that's all fine and good. I thought we were going to see some games, Rockstar. So that would be next to the biggest troll ever if they were to do that, have people thinking that they're going to be at the Game Awards, and they come out with their trailer the next day. Oh my gosh, that day is, either way you look at it, that day is going to absolutely melt the internet when that happens. So whether or not this is going to appear at the Video Game Awards, we don't know yet. I'm going to say no, just because it's Rockstar and they can do what they want to do. Their games are going to sell. They're one of the most elite gaming companies out there. And I will say this. I gotta point this out. This is why I think sometimes you need to take some great franchises and just sit on them. I understand gaming is a lot different than it used to be back in the 90s when I was, younger, much younger. I was a kid, 13, 14 years old, during that time period where we would only get maybe one or two blockbuster games for the year. They were not coming out in fast succession like they are today. I think this reigns true that if you have a fantastic franchise, we could talk about Halo. Halo was one of the baddest first person shooters out there. Gears of War, same thing. One of the greatest third person shooters that were ever made at that time, cover based shooters. You had these franchises that were doing so great, but they continuously got released, 2 years, 3 years later. Here it is, Grand Theft Auto 5, and I understand it's an anomaly, has sold a ridiculous amount of 190 million. I gotta say ridiculous twice, because that's just crazy. 190 million copies, and they're still going strong. I just think that sometimes it would be a good idea just to sit on some of these very successful IPs and give people a hunger to want to get them again, but we understand the gaming industry, they're trying to make money all year long. So it might be unrealistic to a certain degree, but nonetheless, we'll definitely see what happens with this next Grand Theft Auto. I think I'm losing my voice, brothers and sisters, but we'll see, man. I do not think that this game is going to be released on Xbox One or PlayStation 4. I don't think they can do it. I know it was a article. What was it? I might have been I don't know. One of the sites that I look at, they had an article. Will, Grand Theft Auto 4 release on the PlayStation 4 and, Xbox One? I said, absolutely not. They can't. That wouldn't even be feasible for what I believe and what we've read the rumors to be. Being able to walk into buildings, buildings actually changing as time moves on. Some buildings decaying after, decades of sitting, and neighborhoods changing, on the fly as the game is moving forward. Now, granted, we don't know if all of that is true, but that has been the rumors that have been circulating out there, that is what Rockstar is trying to do. And I don't think that would even be remotely possible on last gen hardware. I don't think it would ever happen. So I think that we'll see them actually concentrate on PlayStation 5. Shucks, man. You never know. These jokers might be concentrating on PS6. You never know. I mean, the PlayStation 5 Pro will be out by the time this game is out. Oh, man. I don't know, brothers. I mean, we remember Red Dead Redemption 2 back when that was released on the Xbox One X. It was actually doing 4K at that time. So we know that Rockstar, they want that latest hardware. Even on the PC. What was it? Some PC guys were complaining about the specs of what their card or rig needed to be in order to run Grand Theft Auto 5. So yeah, these jokers don't care. It's Rockstar. It's doggone Rockstar. Red Dead Redemption 2, it brought some PCs down to its knees. That might have been the one, not Grand Theft Auto 5. But these guys are definitely going technology heavy, and I don't think that the PlayStation 4 or Xbox One will ever be in the conversation for Grand Theft Auto 6 coming to those platforms. Let's get into the next story. I think I'm about to get y'all out of here, brothers. Yeah, we're looking good. So I actually got this story from MXDWN, maybe MaxDon.com. Now, I don't want this next story to sound like, a little bit of doom and gloom, but Warner Brothers Games is shifting their focus to live services. Now, this all stemmed from a third quarter earnings call where CEO David Zaslav said, quote, "Our focus is on transforming our biggest franchises from largely console and PC based with 3 to 4 year release schedules to include more always on gameplay through live services, multi-platform and free to play extensions with the goal to have more players spending more time on more platforms. Ultimately, we want to drive engagement and monetization of longer cycles, and at higher levels, we have put specific capabilities. We are currently under scale and see significant opportunity to generate greater post-purchase revenue." End of quote. So yet again, here we are, man. PlayStation, here we go, WB Games. These jokers are trying to concentrate on live service games because they want to make sure that they're getting a greater revenue stream coming in. And I don't think it's anything wrong with live service games. I don't think so. I think that if they're done the right way, it could be a good thing. I mean, it makes sure that the company, they stay afloat. They're able to stay around for us to get the great games that we enjoy from them. So, I mean, you guys know my motto. I pay y'all for, great entertainment. As long as you're entertaining me the way that I want to be entertained, you can get my money. It's fine. I just hope that they don't take it too far where they forget about their single player story driven gaming experiences. That's just my only bit of concern is I don't want it to get to the point where they overshadow, the single player games for these games that are designed for them to, continuously be able to monetize off of these games as a service. So we'll see what happens with this, but I don't want to leave it on a negative, note. I do want to tell you guys that, it was a little bit of good news about WB's Wonder Woman game. Now, it was confirmed via a job listing that said, quote, "As a gameplay lead, you will lead the team responsible for core gameplay systems inherit to Monolith's proprietary engine, including combat movement, the Nemesis system, and more." End of quote. I know you guys remember the Nemesis system. That was one of the best systems that I have ever heard of in gaming. I didn't play the game, so I didn't get a chance to experience it. But knowing that you would run into certain characters multiple times and they would remember who you were, I'm like, God, dog, that is dope. And it's never been used since then. I forgot the name of the game that it was used in originally. I think it was Lord of the Rings game, I believe. I'm not too sure. But yeah, them actually saying that the Wonder Woman game will have a Nemesis system integrated into it is phenomenal. And I know that WB Games, they own the actual technology. They patented it and they own it. So that's why nobody else has really had a chance to actually implement it into their game. So hopefully Wonder Woman will come out to be another great superhero game. I know that we have the other game coming out. What is it? The Suicide Squad, which I think the Suicide Squad is going to be very similar to Gotham Knights. Any of you guys that didn't like Gotham Knights, which I don't know why, I'm still playing that game, and that game is excellent in my opinion. But if you didn't like Gotham Knights, I don't know if you're going to like Suicide Squad, because it is the same premise. 4 different players. The traversal system might be a little different. Kind of looks like Sunset Overdrive to a certain degree. We have to see how that works out. But I don't know if it's going to be the game that everybody is expecting it to be, you know, like another Batman game. And I think that's where Gotham Knights gets, you know, it gets criticism that isn't warranted because it's not an Arkham game. It's a completely different game, completely different set of characters, different moves. It's just a different, how could I say it? It's not just a different feel. It's just a different game. That's the best way I can describe it, you know? So, yeah, I think that'll be the same thing with the Suicide Squad, but we shall see. We shall see when it happens. But let's get into the final story. Oh, I'm getting ready to get you guys out of here early. That's what I'm talking about. Now, let's move on to one more story that I got from IGN. So, in more PlayStation news, Sony President Hiroki Totoki did confirm during a financial call. There's a lot of these financial calls going on this past week, ton of them. But he did confirm during the financial call that Sony is reviewing those 12 live service games and has committed to launching 6 of them by the end of the fiscal year 2025, which means by March of 2026, somewhere around there. But Mr. Totoki said, quote, and the remaining 6 titles, as for when to be released, we are still working on that. End of quote. So they got 6 that will be releasing, which is great. And those other 6, kind of put on ice a little bit. I don't want to give you a time frame of when those will be released, but I think this is the right call. You don't want to just dive out the window with some uncharted territory, as it were, to see if you can rev up the business or get it together, because we know that most of these games as a service games, pardon me guys, games as a service games, they usually don't make it for the most part. So I think it's a smart move to kind of dip your toe in a little bit. Don't just dive body first into the water. You might drown. So with them actually coming out with the first 6 by the end of, the beginning of March 2026, all of them will be out. They can gauge it to see how it is working. And if it's working out well, then I'm sure that's when they'll start to gear up to put the other 6 out there. So I think this is fantastic. The way that Jim Ryan was trying to do it, he was trying to flood the market. That joker said, we just diving in. You take on one. You take on one. He was trying to have the studio switch up their whole flow. They don't do these kind of games. People were becoming disgruntled employees over at Sony from these different teams because this was not something that they wanted to sign up to do. So I think this is great. You just go ahead and just slowly shift into it, which is good. But that wasn't the only news that we got. Gaming revenue is up 32%, and PlayStation generated over, God darn, $6.6 billion in Q2 fiscal year 2023. And the console, God dog, the PlayStation 5 console has shipped, now this isn't sold, but shipped 46.6 million units. And despite all these fantastic numbers, this is the thing that throws me off. Despite all of these fantastic numbers, Mr. Totoki said they're going to focus on growing profitability. Profitability, Mr. Totoki. They made $6.6 billion in the second quarter of fiscal year. Wow. You're on track to get to 50 million PlayStation 5s by the end of the year. The PlayStation 5 Slim just released. I'm sure that's going to spike interest in the console even more. It's being packed in with, some are being packed in with Spider-Man 2, others with Modern Warfare 3. I mean, golly, I'm trying to figure out that gaming revenue is up 32%, but yet they are still laying off workers. And I understand that Sony is bigger than just PlayStation. I think they got some kind of camera lens or something like that. That didn't do too well, which kind of put them in the red, I think, in that sector of the company. But gaming is soaring right now, 6.6 billion. And I'm going to say it again, PlayStation. This is just PlayStation generated over $6.6 billion. So their gaming sector is phenomenal. Now, granted, I don't know Sony's business. I don't know how much money they're putting out, how much money they're taking in, how much of this is even profit. I don't know. I mean, maybe out of the 6.6 billion, maybe $1 million of it is, that's impossible. That was stupid of me to say that. But I'm just saying, I don't understand how a company could be doing so great and just laying off so many people. But I guess the same argument could be made for Microsoft. How is Microsoft making billions of dollars, in a quarter, and they're laying people off? It just goes to show that these companies, they could really be doing great financially, but if it's a way to cut the fat and to be able to keep more of the profits to themselves, they are going to do that. That's why that AI thing that Microsoft is teaming up with those other guys, getting that into the works. That's why I'm like, man, this thing is going to take 1,000 jobs away, and they're not going to blink an eye once it happens, So with him saying that they're going to focus on growing profitability, God dang, they made this in a quarter. This wasn't a year. This was a fiscal quarter. Second quarter, they made $6.6 billion. So I'm just baffled by this. I mean, these are phenomenal numbers, but I'm not a financial analyst, so I can't really speak on it too much because I just don't know. But I would have thought with these kind of numbers, Sony would be sitting super pretty. But despite them making that much money, they're still going to concentrate on growing profitability. God, corporations, you gotta love them. Anyway, that is the end of the gaming news this week. I'm gonna get y'all out of here within an hour, baby. Yeah. But, of course, this week we have video game theater. And we're gonna travel back to 2013 when Tomb Raider was actually rebooted and, was released. And we're going to go back to a very pivotal scene that changes the character Lara Croft for the rest of the game and the franchise. So without further ado, let's get into video game theater. And we will return right after this.
Who are you people? What do you want with us?
Lara! If they give you any trouble, kill them!
Don't hurt them, please!
I said, silence, girl. А ты ведь хорошенькая, да? Напоминаешь мою сестру. Let go of her! Let go! Lara, run!
Oh, no!
Round them up! Round them up! Don't you f***ing move! Kill them all! Любишь играть в прятки, малышка? Думаешь, удастся спастись? No one escapes. Выбежай! Но трать моего времени! Она тоже была порочной стервой.
Oh, God!
Woo, man, Lara Croft. She had to get him. She had to take him up out of there. That was her first. Yeah, that was the first time she had to pull the trigger, brothers and sisters. Golly, changed the whole trajectory of the game from that point moving forward. I absolutely love that game, man. Tomb Raider reboot. That was astounding. I absolutely enjoyed the heck out of that game. But let's go ahead and let's move into the question of the week. And this week, I was just going to ask you guys, knowing everything that is going on over at Sony, well, I should say at PlayStation, hearing about Bungie actually taking away people's retirement and their stakes, and Sony actually paying these guys the extra money to retain the talent over there at the studio, was buying Bungie a mistake? Did they misread the market with Bungie? Because it's one interesting thing about Bungie. Bungie, they are a very talented studio, but it looks like they bounce around. They were with Microsoft. They wanted their independence. They got their independence. I think Microsoft made a mistake letting them go because they could have had Destiny up under their umbrella if they had held on to them. But that was Xbox's loss. So they move over to Activision with the game I just said. What did I just say? Man, what is that game? I'm just blanking on that game. Destiny 2, golly, or Destiny. They go over to Activision and they have that deal, a 10-year deal with them. They get out of that early. They move on. They're not happy. Now they're over at Sony, and it seems like the same thing is happening. It seems like, I don't know if everybody else is the problem or if Bungie is the problem, but when you see things like this happening time and time again, things where the studio, things are happening, people getting fired, them wanting to leave, people not being happy, they want to go, the employees not being happy, things of that nature. Now, I don't know if the employees are unhappy. Well, I would guess they are. They lost their job. So of course they're going to be unhappy. But my question to you guys is, again, with all of that being said, seeing the track record of what Bungie is able to do and what they have done in the past, let's not erase all of the good that they've done, but they seem to be a little difficult to work with. So my question again is, was buying Bungie a mistake? I mean, look, if you're losing the talent that you paid for, that is no different than an NBA contract, you getting the team together, NFL contract, you got these guys in place that you need them to play in order to make you successful. And you're losing some of these players. Now, I'm not saying that they're losing key players, but you're losing players that actually make up the team, to make the games what they are. I would say that, man, this is a bad look, but maybe I'm overreacting. I don't think so. But my question again to you guys, was buying Bungie a mistake? If you want to chime in, you can do it two different ways. You can either call the show at 443-380-0281 and let your voice literally be heard. Or you can email the show, and the email address is simply, once again, the Analog Circle Podcast at gmail.com. I was your host, Kiaun Mitchell, and I'm going to get y'all out of here within an hour. So with that being said, before we wrap it up, and I want to thank you guys for being here, but before we wrap it up and put a bow on it, always remember, it is not about the consoles, it is about the game. So we will be at it again next week on the latest episode of the Analog Circle Podcast. So with that being said, you guys take care. Be safe out there. Bye-bye.